VB, or Dan, and this is Lyons Brewing, hiring a motorhome, or RV, travelling Australia, visiting brewers, and brewers can hop on the bus, off the bus, do collaborations, and be interviewed. So, Owen, what's your favourite beer style?
I flip back and forwards, I guess, between maybe lager. I think it's, like when you're going out and having a day out, drinking lagers on a sunny day, perfect. Bit of seafood, or session ale, so like Pacific ale, session ale, sort of lightly or dry hopped session ale, yeah. Sort of Pacific ale is on a hot summer's day. Not a huge fan of IPAs. So.
What about sours? You've been doing some sours, like that strawberry one was pretty good.
Yeah. Lucky at MisMatch that you and head brewers massively into sours, and we've got a mandarin and a strawberry one as well, but pretty interesting. Just trying to utilise. We're actually on a fruit growers property, so trying to utilise actual real fruit as opposed to like essences or anything like that.
Hang on, I'm just going to mute this guy because it's going to create dramas the whole time. Okay. So what about sours? Because I know you guys did like that mandarin sour.
Yep. Using sour pitch? Is that what you were trying to lead me to say, Dan?
Do you use sour pitch?
We do use sour pitch.
Yeah, right.
Sour pitch, and then we ferment it out with American ale yeast, or West Coast American ale.
How do you put the mandarin in?
We actually do it just, even though it's sterile, it's aseptic filled juice, 1,000 litre IBCs and stuff like that. We actually just heat it up and we pass it out after the final brew. So we'll send one to the fermenter, and then we'll quickly bring it up to 80 degrees, and just to sterilise it and make sure we get all the alcohol and the sugar, or obviously the starting gravity correct, so that we get our alcohols right.
What's your favourite malt?
Munich, maybe, but I love to eat Crystal. I hate it in beer.
You like to eat Crystal, but you hate it in beer.
Yeah, it tastes delicious. It tastes like Milo.
A lot of people use Crystal too much. Too much percent. It's like the crazy homebrewers that put like 20 different malts into a beer. Because you've never homebrewed, right? I've homebrewed since 14. Why do you hate that?
It's so much work. Like, I mean, it's I don't come from a homebrewing background. I come from a bar background, so I guess I'm just lazy. So therefore, I've only ever homebrewed once with you, I think.
That would have been in the Young Henry's days with my homebrew kit that turned into the research and development kit. I mean, I've got a little grandfather now, and I just haven't had any time because since working with Lyons, I'm everywhere. I mean, look, I'm in a motorhome travelling with you throughout Adelaide and then WA.
Yeah, I mean, I the thing about it is though, I've always found we took on a guy who started up a home brewer, become a brewer, and how the attention to detail is astronomical. The variety of beers they make and things like that, they open my eyes up to things that I've never thought about, or styles, beers, flavours.
I guess the idea with home brewing is you get to experiment, right? You get that creativity, and you don't have to wing it on 50 hectolitres, and if you screw it up, you screw it up.
Yeah, I mean,
but it sounds like what you've been doing is just winging it on 50 hec or 35 hec. What's the size of your brew length?
We have 35 hec brewery house, but I think after a while, kind of, you've made a sour before, or you've made an IPA, you kind of know Bitterness is always, I reckon, the hardest one. Colour is also difficult sometimes, especially I think red beers that say red in them. If they say red, they need to be red and not brown. That's always the hardest one.
I think that happens a lot.
So we have a red IPA, which is taken a lot of time to get that right. But, yeah.
What's your favourite hop?
Galaxy. I know it's the cop-out answer, but we're lucky, I think, in Australia that there's amazing access to one of the best hops in the world. I think, obviously, we probably all overuse it a little bit, but it is that good that we're not, maybe we don't recognise how lucky we are to have a hop like that. Brewers in the States die to get a hold of an allocation of Galaxy, and we can get a hold of it reasonably easily. There's obviously demand is huge, and the expansion of the Galaxy plantations is forever growing. But yeah, Galaxy.
I think my favourite at the moment is Melba, and there's a brewery near me where I live in the Southern Highlands called Eden Brewery.
Yep.
And we're working on a bit of a recipe together with Jacob, who's a great guy. So I'm really looking forward to having a crack at Melba for sure.
Yeah.
What's your favourite yeast? And obviously no pressure.
USO 5.
What do you use at the brewery?
We use our ales all West Coast American ales.
West Coast American Ale?
Yeah.
So like the BR 197?
Correct them with the.
Do you,
It's good, it's clean.
how many generations do you get that to?
More than you tell me is acceptable.
Jeez, look at this big car.
Jesus. Jesus.
It's going fast too.
Took it out. Yeah, we find we've got to about 9, 10, maybe one of them went to 15 or something silly like that. But I think it's all about obviously the right conditions, right? It's the problem we started to have always was the diacetyl taking too long, taking 5, 6 days.
Yeast is starting to mutate. Its mitochondria becomes defunct, and we call it deficient respiratory deficient yeast, and that's a sign of aging. Same as a lot of sulfur generation.
Yeah, we've definitely seen. I think that thing I think people don't take into account is first generation versus third, fourth, fifth, and the different effects of temperature. So like when you're pitching, obviously, dry yeast, and it takes 24, 48 hours to actually kick off. When you pitch it the second time, obviously we go cone to cone, but actually need to pitch at cool temperature to get the same profile fermentation.
Yeah,
which is something we've really struggled with our lager until we recognised it. Because what you think when you pitch dry yeast, you think it's the same when you go cone to cone, but it's definitely not.
It's definitely that temperature shock.
Yeah. And it's in the second generation, it's absolutely second and third is absolutely humming. So yeah, I think that's as it stepping up from a brewery that was always pitching dry yeast to recycling and making sure you get good fermentation.
What's your favourite brewery outside of your own brewery?
Probably Grifter, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're friends of ours from the early Young Henry's days. Really like Ben Spoke as well. Richard, I think his beers are cracking. And maybe another Adelaide one, probably Lobethal Beer House. Alistair's he's like the god of craft beer. He's been there doing his own thing, selling it pretty much mostly direct sales and a few taps around. And is a brewery that doesn't want to grow. He wants to actually probably even shrink. So, yeah, he's all about quality, doing his own maltings.
Yeah, every time, like I've been there quite a while ago, and I was just amazed. He's always got a project on the go.
Yeah.
Always some new bit of kit or some new thing that he's introducing.
He doesn't do it for the money. He does it for
the passion.
Passion, yeah. I mean, yeah. He gave up a career as an investment banker in New York to come back and start a brewery in the Adelaide Hills, and yeah, he's been doing it forever. And yeah, it's not about the money for him. I think it's about the passion, good beer.
So I missed a question, so we'll just chuck it in now. It's who are you and what do you do?
I'm Owen, the brewery manager for MisMatch Brewing Company in the Adelaide Hills. And yeah, I make beer for a living.
And what did you do before MisMatch Brewing?
Unemployed for a little bit there.
A holiday?
Little holiday, which consisted of me basically spending every day at the pub. Not really sure where I was going, but before that I was Young Henry's as a brewer, and then yeah, before that I worked in hospitality.
How was BrewCon for you for 2019?
Unfortunate, I wasn't there. I was lucky enough to make it over for the Indies Beer Awards, but yeah, unfortunately, we just as a company we were just a little bit too busy, and
you're there for the awards night, though.
Yeah, we were there for the awards. Well done, Daniel. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Young Gun 2019.
And congratulations on your award as well.
Thank you very much.
How's the availability of brewing education in Australia?
I think it's good. I think it's kind of a little bit still finding its feet. I think that as always, I mean, we all work full-time jobs and stuff like that while trying to always still learn. It needs to be a little bit more flexible. You know, I think especially in sort of those companies that are like us, you know, like less than 10 people in the business, finding the time to actually put aside and study, you know, might sound like a cop-out, but you know, you do 60 hours, 50, 60 hours a week, whatever you do, and then you need to still study on top of that as well as have a life. I think the flexibility in the study programs would probably be the biggest flaw I think I'd see at the moment. You literally can't. You've got to dedicate a day a week, probably, I reckon, you know, to do it properly for at least 6 months. If you really want to, you know, study it and do it properly. So yeah, it's good. The opportunities are there. I think more and more owners are seeing the value in actually, you know, paying for people to go and study more, as opposed to, I think what a lot of people have always done is go and pay themselves, you know, leave their IT career or leave their, like you, I guess, leave your career in IT and have to fund it yourself. More and more people are definitely seeing the value in educating their staff.
I really do think this is why the Siebel online platform, by being able to buy individual lectures, is going to be a big game changer in terms of education, because you have more of that flexibility, and you know they can then add up to a certification, but you can do it more at your own time or at your own pace. I think it'll be I've always just struggled with, you know, best of intentions is to start out studying. It's always just a struggle in a craft brewery where you are strapped for man hours, and you know you do have to hold down a job while studying. What's the biggest need in the industry right now?
For me, it's quality. I guess I keep banging on about it, but people selling the sizzle and not selling the sausage.
So you want to elaborate on what that means?
A lot of like hype, I guess, about certain products and beers and styles. And, there's not a lot of authenticity, I think, about them. So I'm pretty passionate about not using essences and things like that. So just using proper. If it says coffee, we use coffee. If it says strawberry or mandarin, we use strawberry or mandarin, and Australian strawberry and mandarin. I think authenticity and as well, that flows down into packaging lines and things like that. Like the quality of your packaging, so customers can buy a product and know what they're going to get, because that's when we take the step from being a craft brewery to being like a commercial brewery, where customers can go in and pick up a can of whatever beer it is that they might like and know what they're going to get. Whereas I think we always used to embrace batch variants. Was batch variants. Whereas craft breweries kind of got to take the next step so that I think that the industry can flourish even more so. And that's have that consistency, have the reputation.
Yeah, consistency I think is a big thing. It's a big thing I've worked on a lot of with my presentations and stuff. Like I did that one on diacetyl. It's something we really hammer in at TAFE with the kids, doing the sensory every lesson.
Yeah, I think sensory. It's definitely a flaw of mine, not doing enough smelling, tasting throughout ferment. And you can end up with something going in package that, yes, might have passed VDK and might have had a fine ferment, but unless you actually sit there and smell it, find a lot on the sours. You'd be very, very careful of sulfur on the sours. Obviously, yeast is under stress with the pH, and also, an array of sugars.
The strain as well. Certain strains can't handle that pH range. Some can, some can't.
Is there a strain you'd suggest is better at handling it?
From the tests that I've seen from the research internally, all of the strains that we have are okay at that lower pH range with sour pitch, because that's one of the testings they did before that as well, to see if we would recommend the differences, and we definitely recommend the whole range at that pH.
I guess one of the things I reckon about sour pitch is that probably a lot of people don't notice about it is that it's not actually the lactobacillus that's actually in sour pitch is not able to exist in beer with higher than 20 IBU or 10.
Yeah, look, I think depending on the acid type, basically more than 10 IBUs, lactobacillus plantarum drops off.
Is something that I think a lot of people probably mightn't think too much about. Obviously, you're opening up.
People add a whole lot of hops and then they say, "Oh, sour pitch doesn't work," but that's why you've got to add the hops after.
But also the fact is that it's not actually a threat to your brewery. Why, if you do it in a controlled manner and you do it the right way, using a product like sour pitch, I mean, I think we've all probably got caught out thinking you can do it with grain or throwing some yogurt in or something like that.
And
to get consistency,
it's not very consistent. Yeah. I just have to stop for fuel.
Yep.
So give me a second. The fuel light came on. Now,
let me just have a sleep here.
where do I open the fuel thing?
Probably just on the door, like on the actual where you fill up.
On the tank.
You probably need the keys. So
we chatted a bit about what's the biggest need in the industry, and you're saying quality. Quality. I mean, that's a big thing. There's a lot of breweries, like some breweries I go into, they don't even do grabs. They just do, the brew house, what the starting gravity is, and then what the finishing gravity is. They don't even do grabs the whole along the way. They don't taste along the way. They're not breathing the blow off of the ferments to smell how that yeast health is going. I find that crazy. What do you think the next brewing trend is going to be? You know, like Vic or...
I think, look, I've been really surprised that Australia is actually taking a step away from. I think we always looked to the US to see what the next trend was going to be. However, our palates are different. Breweries in Australia, they don't survive on their IPA or their pale ale. I don't think so much. I mean, I guess brewery, like we survive on our lager and our session ale. So I think, you know, we talk about trends. I think a lot of people will always jump to the latest craze in the US. However, I mean, I guess that's those sort of one-off, like iconic beers, you know, like obviously lactose, dry hop, fruited, sour, which we do. We made it as a mistake, I guess, sometimes, but it's I think Australia has probably set its own trend. I suggest obviously good quality lager, clean, like good quality lager is obviously started the last couple of years coming back into fashion. And I think, you know, stalwarts like Stonewall Pacific Ale, they are the beer styles that Australia's like drinking. So that sort of middle of the road alcohol content, not too boozy, so that you don't fall apart. I can't double IPAs and things like that are really they're not for me, but they're for someone. So yeah, I think my personal opinion is it's going to be much the same we've already got, which will be the volume. Yeah.
Well, tell me about this beer that you've got in the fridge for us, the New England Lager. New England Lager. Tell us how that came about.
I'm not sure. Definitely we have a seasonal release, and we needed to come up with one for spring or summer, and I'm guessing I made a New England Berliner Weiss as a mistake with passion fruit and mango. It's always a hard one, I guess, is to balance the hops with any souring element. Kind of can really be a hit or miss. But I think it's how it evolved. I'm not really quite sure, but Ewan, our head brewer, he make a clean, crisp beer that's hoppy and also fruity. And I think the lager yeast strain in a New England beer is a little bit of a no-brainer. Like it just lets the yeast stand out the way, and the hops and the fruit do the talking. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could look to amplify the hops and amplify the fruit by a spicy flavours and a fruity yeast strain, or you look for a lager where you just ask it to step out the way and let the other things do the talking.
Yeah, like I think hopefully people will start getting into using yeast as your flavour. You know, it's always about the hops, it's about the fruit, but what about the yeast? What about the yeast doing some stuff? I think that's an area that can be looked at a bit more, especially in Australia.
Yeah, I think that become a bit complacent with maybe having just 2 yeast strains in a brewery, and
people are very happy to spend a lot of money on hops. What about yeast?
Yeah,
if you do the calculations of how much a crazy hoppy beer costs,
yeah.
What about a co-fermented beer with a couple of different yeast strains in there at different temperatures?
Yeah, I mean, you see, that's probably one of the bigger trends that we'll probably, I think, see more and more of is that sort of mixed culture. Jade at the Wheaties got this amazing program going on where she invites different breweries in, and they bring in their own yeast and add it to the yeast that she's already got going, and it's just building up this. So you're not really sure what it is now, but it just continually keep adding other people's mixed culture strains and things like that to her ferment, and then the evolution of this yeast is pretty cool.
What about infections? Have you ever had an infection in the brewery? What was it, and what did you do to solve the issue?
Not at MisMatch, thankfully, since I've been there, which is pretty lucky. But definitely, in a previous brewing role, someone went to go pitch, and we were storing the yeast in kegs at that time, and the hose leading from the keg into the tank, it blew, and then it was just like a hose clamp that was holding it on to a barb, and we just put it straight back on, and we didn't re-sanitize it or anything like that, and sure enough, we got an infection, and yeah, so one of the I guess the most depressing days you can really get in a brewery is when you have to put something down the drain. But yeah, if you set your systems up now that I've obviously learned more and more and more, when you're risking it or you're doing something that just
it's a bigger evil, right? So that not re-CIPing means you could potentially dump
2-3 minutes, or
quite a lot of
10 minutes.
Yeah,
10 minutes to reclean that. Not saying that it might not have. It could have come from anywhere really. I mean, the keg could have been infected where they put the yeast in there, but yeah, I think just set your processes up, ATPs and plating and all those sorts of things that you evolve into as you grow as a brewery. Keep spending more and more money on the lab and the quality assurance programs. Actually makes your job easier because you do all this hard work getting it into the fermenter just to mess it up down the line. Yeah.
What's your worst brewing mistake?
Probably 12 hect brew house, Young Henry's. Hadn't been brewing for very long, and we never had a drain hose on the bottom pumps, like a swing bend panel, brew house DB, and there was never ever a hose on the front of the pump. But someone came along and put a hose on it to try and just make it tidier and neater, make sure we weren't just dropping drip and stuff like that out on the floor and then having to hose it down. So put a hose on it, put it in the drain. However, I was brewing this one day and filled the kettle up, got it up on boil. Probably we went to go get lunch or something like that, and come back to do the yeast nutrient and well block, and opened up the kettle and looked inside, and there's nothing there anymore. Did the Houdini. And yeah, I just started literally dry reaching. That's how much I panicked. I was like
hectic,
dry reaching on the brewery floor. And yeah, you just learn from it. You learn to handle it better next time. That's obviously, I think when you make a mistake, you panic and you can make even more mistakes.
And that's a big thing, and it goes back to team culture, that you will make mistakes, and it's okay to make a mistake.
Totally.
But let your supervisor know, let your team know. Hiding mistakes, that is the worst. That really sets
I think
very bad brewing culture. Never hide it.
Much happier for people to say, raise your hand and say you messed up. You're obviously not proud of it, but if you raise your hand and just be honest,
yeah,
you can fix it.
And you can all work together as a team.
In terms of fixing it, might be putting it down the drain, but the consequences of not being honest, far greater.
What do you think everyone is doing right in the industry or wrong in the industry?
me, everyone moving to cans has been great. I mean, obviously the environmental impact, the quality of the beer, the accessibility, and for venues operating, much easier to have 2 cans in a fridge take up about the same size as 1 bottle for fridge space. So you can definitely fit a lot more into a retail space with cans. Just I guess the quality of the canning equipment that's available is getting better and better and better. I just think that allocating enough budget towards packaging when you're starting a brewery is probably the thing that people are doing wrong.
Well, they don't realise all the check equipment, all the little tricks you got to do.
It's almost like a 3-2-1, right? Everyone goes the wrong way around. Spend 3 times as much on a brew house than they do on the packaging line. Whereas you could buy a cheaper brew house and make okay beer and package it really well, and that's what the consumer will actually see. Whereas if you do it the other way and you spend it all on the brew house and then you cheap out on the packaging line, doesn't matter like how good your beer was in the fermenter, if you don't package it right, it's just wasted. So yeah, I think.
And then the lab is oh yeah, we'll get to the lab.
This is a bit of point with you, Dan. Is there something you'd like to talk about?
Are You Okay Day was a couple of days ago, mate. I'm okay.
Yeah, no, we've definitely spent a lot of money on the lab. Obviously, we're not pasteurizing any of our beers, so making sure it's stable is huge. But yeah, obviously, the lab is a huge part of what we do. We have an amazing guy, Tommaso.
Who I did the research with for that experiment that we're doing. He's awesome.
What research?
The research we did at Brewer the other day with Tommaso.
Yeah, but I don't think they know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell them what it is yet.
Why is that? Your theory,
There's a theory I'm working on. But Tommaso's a gun. He's amazing.
Yeah, we're super lucky. We've got, he's a researcher, obviously, for the Adelaide University as well. Followed in the footsteps of Frank from Stone and Wood.
Who's also a legend.
Yeah, I don't actually know him personally, but Tommaso speaks really highly of him. And then, yeah, super lucky to have these intelligent people. I kind of joke with him quite often that he studied at university for 10 years to come work with me. But without people like that who have these astronomical capabilities in terms of like lab ideas, thought processes, structure as well. Just I think that one of the biggest things he also brings is just structure. Like recording of data, sets up systems, spreadsheets. Guys are Excel genius, and we've got the most elaborate brew sheet I've ever seen in the world, where literally if you just put it in autopilot, it will tell you everything you need to do. So yeah, which is amazing because there's unfortunately not some brewery software that I've seen or that I've used yet that's been very capable of start to finish of a brew, fermentation, packaging, wastage, yields, and everything. There's no software really out there that's really nailing it all. And so yeah, it's the structure that Tommaso brings through his spreadsheets he's created. It's great.
And yeah, I think it's important to ask people, are you okay? Because, you know, in the brewing industry, it's very stressful. People are under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, mental health is a big thing that I take seriously. It's something that I'm working on with the IBA, with the committee, with the other people that are on the committee as well. And it's a big thing, you know. Sometimes you're not okay, you know, and I think asking that is important.
Yeah.
For sure. You know.
Oh, massively. Anyone who knows me knows that I live life to the fullest. I'm out all the time. I'm always at the pub, or, you know, catch up with friends, doing things. And we're in an industry where, you know, we can sort of hide things sometimes. And yeah, are you okay? Like, you know, sometimes you're not okay, and it's fine to not be okay. But just to be honest, and know that if you talk about it, if you do something about it, you know, I would suggest that, you know, most of us probably aren't okay.
You know, and a lot of people are happy to go see a chiropractor or a physician, or if you've got the flu, you're happy to go to a doctor in those ways. But, you know, a lot of people don't go see a psychologist. And they don't treat it the same way.
Yeah, and
I don't think you should.
It's but also I think, you know, and obviously you can go see someone like that, but it's also more so, you know, just looking out for your friends, making sure that you set yourself up, I guess, as well. Like, you know, maybe going out on Sunday is not a great idea when you're going to be at work on a Monday. You put yourself in the situation where I've been guilty of it. You know, you know you're making a wrong decision. Going to the pub on a Sunday, you know, could you go to the gym? Do you? I do a lot of things like that. I will don't drink at home. Only drink socially with friends, which doesn't make it maybe any better, but it's the way that I can construct, I guess, my environment with how I do consume alcohol. Is that, you know, I enjoy it in the social aspect, because otherwise I think, you know, I would definitely struggle if I was drinking at home, and I wouldn't do things like go to the gym, you know, do your washing. You know
I
what
love
mean?
mindless tasks. You know, I'm a gardener. I like tinkering around in the garden, building stupid things. I mean, you remember that share house? Aquaponics, the lot. I think it's good zenning, you know, and it's the same with you going to the gym. It's good zenning. You need to have that balance, and that's a big thing that sometimes I find, you know, you got to still force that work-life balance in a brewery. You know, if you're doing everything, like, you got to make sure you set yourself that time aside, because you can really.
Funny enough, this is the first holiday I've had from MisMatch since starting, and you know, it wears you down. But you just become in a cycle where you just keep doing it. You just keep turning up, and you just put things away, and you don't deal with issues that you should be dealing with. And
I agree. Like, I had the same thing when I left YH. I had a huge astronomical amount of leave. And also when I left IT to work at YH, I had an astronomical amount of leave. And it's something that I am working out to do better now, is really plan some leave. You know, make sure that I plot that in and not let everything build up, because it really does get to a point where you're grumpy. Like, I had a lot of medical issues going on when I was at Young Henry's that I was unaware of, because I was just always caught in the moment of working a lot. You know, glasses, I never went and got my eyes checked, so I couldn't see. I had sleep apnea, so I never had a good night's sleep. And then I was diagnosed with hemochromatosis, so I had an iron condition, so I had a lot going on. You know, so seeing a GP and also seeking mental health, I think, is a really, really important thing. There was a brewer at BrewCon, and I could just see something wasn't quite right. And, you know, we had a really good chat, just opened up a bit more about me and my experiences. And we had a really, really good conversation. And then I remember the conversation, and then I got this text message, and once I find a spot to pull over, I'll read this text message out because I think it's a really, really, really good text message and an example. So I'll just pull over in this little information bay so that it's safe to grab my mobile phone. So see if I can find this here because I thought it was really.
This is a text message someone sent you after
this
the
is
conversation.
after the conversation, yeah. So. Hey Dan, it's Blah from Blah Brewery. I appreciated the chat we had on Friday night. I really did. I was feeling more emotionally open afterwards and was able to help out a friend who was in a bad place over the weekend. The world needs more people like you. Anyway, hope that wasn't too cheesy for you. Keep up the good work. Oh, that was really cool, man.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it's about. It's about talking to people when you can kind of sense that something isn't quite right, you know?
Yeah.
And
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I mean, I've unfortunately had a friend who we weren't aware of things that they were dealing with at a certain point in time, and you look back at the situation and you wish you could have done something about it, or you could have said something. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, you know, just being open and honest, knowing that it's okay to talk about it. You know, we're in a very masculine industry, unfortunately. But you know, more and more we break it down and we actually evolve as an industry and realise that, you know, you can talk about things, or, you know, you don't need to be a.
And there's a lot more women coming in the industry, which is fantastic. Like when I studied in 2014 at Siebel, half the class was female. You know, and we're getting there. We've got a long way to go.
So much better environment when, I mean, we all know early days of Young Henry's, it was just, you know, a bunch of boys in the shed making beer. And then as it evolved, obviously Aggie came on, and then Sam. Just environment changes. It
becomes a better environment, definitely.
1,000 times better environment. Because, you know, we as men think, you know, well, we can do anything. Think we're so smart and things like that. But yeah, the girls just completely change the environment, evolves. Yeah, but
as getting there, you know, I hope a lot more women get into the industry. You know, in my TAFE course, it's like usually 2 or 3. You know, but I want to see us get to that, you know, 50%. You know,
yeah,
half and half. You know, and I really hope we get there.
I make a pretty conscious effort to make sure that try to work that 50-50 ratio, male to female ratio, and you know, we've been very lucky. We've stumbled across some people who have just walked in the door and have just been amazing. But yeah, it's also, you know, making sure they get responsibilities and not just doing it for the sake, not hiring people just because they're female. They're female and they're better at jobs than a lot of us boys are.
You're better pallets too.
Is that one?
Better pallets.
Pallets, yeah. Diacetyl. I've got a couple of girls that just nail it every time. They pick it up, and even when it's low, they still pick it up. And yeah, make us boys look silly.
Well, I think that concludes our interview.